Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I have broken the stream yet again, so just give me 1 second. We can get this fixed right up. But welcome to the Block Sauce, your weekly web show that serves up the juiciest discussions in the world of Web3 gaming culture. There we go. So today we are doing a little bit different with the show. I got an echo. You might have an echo. How about now? So for those that can't hear Sinjin just yet, you might be you if you got the stream pulled up. You might have to stream. But that being said, we're gonna just running it live. Things are different today. Things are different. We're gonna jump over and figure it out.
There, man.
And now we're live with everything fixed, I hope.
Yeah.
Woo! It's a rough start, but somebody left me and Sinjin unattended with no adult supervision to run this show today. So,
Fuck the adults.
How are you doing today,
Let's get
Sinjin?
profanity laden today.
Oh man, I mean, there's a lot to swear about.
No, let's just get down and dirty, hardcore.
Well, first, I think that the elephant in the room, the recent news, Sam Altman is set to return to OpenAI. I don't know how I feel about all this nonsense. Like, looking at it from start to finish, it just feels like a giant PR stunt almost, more than anything. Like, who?
Yeah, I haven't cared about it at all. Everyone's been freaking out in the tech world, like this is whatever, and they're showing corporate structures or whatever. I could give a fuck about it all. I'm too obsessed with gaming in the middle of like this gaming run, launching games, and my life is stressful enough. I don't care about this outside nerd drama of whatever AI is going to destroy the world, moving too fast, whatever like this, employer revolts, idiotic boards, and pissing off your billion-dollar partner. I mean, Jesus.
I mean, look, even if AI doesn't destroy the world, I think that our governments are doing a pretty good job of that on their own. I don't think we need AI to really push that forward.
Climate change, man. We're hitting over 2% already,
Dude, I don't know. To me, it's funny. It's kind of crazy to me that OpenAI gets this kind of publicity. I mean, boards firing CEOs happens all the time, right? Like, this isn't something that is like, oh my God, this is the first time in a decade a CEO has been fired. I think the only reason it's really getting any publicity is because it is OpenAI, and they were first, so to speak. I mean, there's a dozen other AIs out there for me to use. ChatGPT could disappear, and I'll be fine. I mean, we got Grok coming next week. How you feeling about Grok?
I have no idea what Grok is. I'm from like the mid 70s.
Dude,
but
it's Twitter's AI. It's Elon Musk's AI. How are you not a stan of Daddy Musk's AI?
Brock, the funny AI, the cynical AI. Okay, I get you
Basically,
now.
the dad joke AI.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But OpenAI, I believe, is like one of the fastest adopted technology or apps ever, right? For the scale that they've ever done. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, look at what ChatGPT has done in the last year and a half. I mean, like when ChatGPT 3 came out, like holy shit, like on crypto Twitter, I mean, it totally changed everything. And around the world, all these like concept artists were like fired within like a couple of months. You know, so it really has had a material effect in the tech world for sure. And I think like even my wife uses ChatGPT. I don't use ChatGPT, but my wife does. And she got introduced by her other like middle age, stay at home, rich mommies who like just love it. So it's an unbelievable thing. So it is a big deal. It definitely is a big deal. And I think the way that they handled it, the board, um, you know, the approach they took for whatever reason, knowing that they would be pushed back, whatever like that, decided to do this in a very righteous way. But there also shows like alignment with your board and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, very dramatic, but like ultimately, Sam's back, Sam's with Microsoft. I don't give a fuck, actually. AI, as you mentioned, AI is marching on. I mean, the genie is out of the ball, the Pandora's box is open. I mean,
Yep.
it's not really resting on one individual any longer, right? And Elon obviously making his moves as well, and showing his position. So
Well, I
wonderful.
mean, yeah, at this point, like you said, I think you nailed it perfectly. AI is going to march on regardless of what happens. If ChatGPT is the big thing, cool. If it's not ChatGPT and we see Microsoft or Google or whoever's AI take over, I mean, it's going to happen. Like AI isn't really going to go away even if ChatGPT fades. So I have to agree with you on that one for sure.
No, but I'm
But
interested to see how much ChatGPT is. It 4 or 5? 5? What
five.
version are you in now?
Yeah, I think if you're paying for it, I think five is either slated to release or has already released.
Yeah, I think I'm interested to see how much of a big difference that is because ChatGPT 4, from someone who is, I always mention it, but in my late 40s and stuff like that, and been around and been an executive and so on and so forth. Uh, it at its very best, like the material that it gives back or the response it gives back is at a senior manager level, which is very high, right? But it's still nothing like someone in my position is going to use on a daily basis, you know. And I want to see, how much higher has it become? Like if it's like like a vice president level, in terms of responses and understanding and how it's presenting the data, then I'll be like very fucking impressed, you know. Mm.
All right. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, do I have concerns regarding AI? I think everybody has some concerns. And that stems more so from like giving it unfettered internet access, not having restrictions in place. The answers that you receive I mean, it's been proven that AI has actually given misinformation or blatantly lied. And people have tested. There was a thread I saw the other day. It was something about blueberry, and they went through asking various AIs to, where is the R in the word blueberry, and most of the AIs flat out said there is no R. I think only one of the AIs said it was between the E and the Y, and I was like, that's kind of crazy that AI can't even figure out the relative position of a letter in a word, and we're putting like you're already seeing it. There's been
But that's interesting because it could be the data set, right? Because
true.
not many idiots are going to ask Google where is the R in blueberry as they type it out and see it on a screen, right? And so you can have examples there, but I think what's more interesting is like where do you think the end game of AI ends up being in terms of the negative side of it? And for me, you know, it's pretty clear that, there's going to be different types of AI, and there's going to be good AI and there's going to be bad AI that loves humanity and loves Sinjin, and AI who thinks that Sinjin is the bane of humanity and the world's existence, right? And I almost kind of believe that, I can almost envision where, obviously this level of, different government level AIs fighting each other, and then there's kind of good AI and bad AI in the background fucking around as well. But the moment that we lose and the good AI that likes humanity gets fucked by like bad AI, we're not even going to notice it happens, but we're going to notice the effects of it happening, right away, right? But this battle, what's I guess really frightening is that like this battle and this kind of battlefield could happen without us ever knowing, or happening in an instant, right? And not being prepared for it. And so I think when it makes such an intuitive leap in terms of its intellect and capabilities, humanity really can have safeguards to really compensate for this, unless we're just, even if we're going slower, because at a certain tipping point, I believe that AI will just surpass our safeguards and so on and so forth. What about yourself? Where do you feel like the real danger of AI is, if you were to say very practically?
It is the unfettered access. That's it for me. Think about dark web. Think about all the websites of how to do things that you probably shouldn't do that aren't legal. And it's not ChatGPT itself that concerns me, because they do have safeguards in place. But there are others that are taking ChatGPT and building off of that with those safeguards removed. And that is causing people to, I'm trying to do this in a way that we don't get flagged by the FBI or something, but let's just say there is something highly illegal that you want to build that would cause a lot of problems for a lot of people and result probably in mass death. And you can't just really go and Google that. But if you don't have those limitations in place, you can go ask ChatGPT that, because who's monitoring ChatGPT? See what I'm saying? Now, again, it's not ChatGPT specific, because they do have safeguards and they do have legal preventative measures in place.
You'll be surprised how many people Google how to murder my, lovely spouse, and then get caught after the fact that they Googled it as proof.
This is a discussion. We're not actually going to be Googling these things. Please don't flag us.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife has Googled that many times to see what she can do to poison me. But being Korean, I think she would take the most direct path. Wouldn't mind getting caught. Crimes of passion and all the rest. Yeah, I don't feel like that's really an issue as well, because the government can track that, and who's making the search queries and so on and so forth.
But it extends past that, though, because think about it. If the AI has the ability to learn and it has full unfettered internet access, what stops it from rewriting itself, reprogramming itself, or adding an entire clone of itself that makes it into the internet? What happens then? See what I'm saying? Then you have all these IT people trying to contain something that adapts and learns as it goes. That is, in my opinion, a scary thought. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know. Somebody.
Let's assume it does happen. And either the AI will feel pity for humanity, because it will notice all like the reality of most humans are just like pieces of shits and deranged individuals and perverse.
I already knew where you're going with that.
Yeah, or it'll try to help us and whatever.
Well, think about all the systems around but think about all the systems around the world that rely on these network connections and the internet, right? Traffic, banks, security systems. Imagine everything just goes dark one day. Do you think we would function as a society?
Do we? No, like obviously not. Not as a modern society. I mean, there'd be massive upheaval, right? And basically, we're afraid of a third party entity taking control and judging us in a way, and we're assuming that the judgment would be negative for sure. Because we as humanity as a whole suck, right? And I mean, if you were an alien organization and you came to Earth and you're like, okay, well, these guys don't give a shit about global warming. Obviously, they have like this data, but they don't give a shit about it. They don't care about like the other species because they're just killing most of them and farming, fucking salmon and shit like that, and that's about it. And they don't care about like their actual fellow humans. They just let them fucking starve and die, even though they have enough resources to, provide at least the bare minimum. And there's a case where humanity pretty much sucks. It's like that Matrix movie where basically Agent Smith basically says that humanity is like a virus, right? Where we have like the same kind of characteristics and attributes where we come and we basically destroy whatever we touch. It's more of a reflection on ourselves.
I mean, you do have a very valid point. I mean, if we were to zoom out, like we look at Earth, like we're the top level, right? But what if we were to zoom out of the bigger picture and we look at Earth as like, I don't know, a blood cell? Would we not be a virus, literally? I mean, we're killing it.
Oh, no, we're actually not killing it, because whether or not there is global warming or whatever, and we fuck it all up, and we have inequality to all of humanity, the Earth will carry on as it has past dinosaurs and the Ice Age and woolly mammoths, and humanity will just have snuffed ourselves out. It's our egotism as humanity to think that we are the Earth. Mother Nature will be fine. It's just that we've fucked up. We will be fucking it up, and we'll be fucking ourselves up as inhabitants on Earth, but Earth will be fine. Mother Nature will correct itself, and maybe there will be another humanity in another like 4 or 5 million years. They'll fossilize, and they'll see our technology, and they'll realize, oh, these past humans were real sick, perverse people. But in almost every single sci-fi book I've ever read, there's always like this period where like whatever, it's post whatever, and there's always a period where there was a massive AI war and they barely survived it. It's funny because when the opening like intro of Dune is like whatever 200,000 years again after the massive AI wars, and that's why humans are the ones whatever. And you look at Foundation's recent Apple what do you call it series, and it talks about the great AI war and how they've defeated androids and so on and so forth. So I think for a lot of futurist writers and stuff like that, they look at it as kind of like this stepping stone in terms of humans' evolution, that we're all likely to go through this, and it's going to be disastrous across the board. It's never going to be like, oh, we had a great time with AI and humanity didn't get almost wiped out. And I think it's a reflection on us as humans, that we believe that we're almost not worthy of like existing in some respects,
Yeah, it's just crazy. I this whole conversation went from AI to aliens to viruses. I'm loving it. But,
That's 2 a.m. in the morning for me, man.
You're like, nothing's off limits for me. I can get creative.
That's
but
right.
In other news, it looks like there has been a class action lawsuit filed against Apple because they are now limiting peer-to-peer payment options on its devices and blocking crypto payments on iOS payment apps. This apparently includes Venmo and Cash App. They are restricting use of decentralized cryptocurrency technology, which is causing users to pay rapidly inflating prices. Now, I don't even know how Apple would have that level of control. I'm kind of actually hoping this lawsuit goes through. I want Apple to take an L here. I'm an iPhone user. Like, don't get me wrong. I love my Apple phone, but Apple has shown time and time again that they're not afraid to implement anti-competitive practices to try and make sure that they do whatever they want to do. They don't care about the end user. They don't really care about these companies that are building apps in their store. They just care about them.
But in their view, maybe they do care, and they're maintaining the integrity of their system, which they have full control over. So it looks like they don't care because they're unilaterally making the decision, but they do care in their own, Steve Jobian kind of way of their closed.
We know what's best for you.
Right. And,
where we heard that before?
Pop in and say, well, Web3 and decentralization solve this. Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, if you're not on a centralized platform and you want, access to, crypto payments and stuff like that, absolutely. But if you are using current centralized systems, right, but using decentralized payment rails, but the centralized system says no, right? Then it doesn't solve shit, right? So like, in some ways, decentralization and dApps and stuff like that have to almost reach all the way down the, retail tech stack in terms of, what we interact with. But the barriers to entry are so huge. Imagine that, we were going to have our own, app store. Well, what would that really require would be, our own phones, right? And now, it gets down to, yeah. But you know how difficult that is, right? And the fact that, it's centralized distribution, centralized manufacturing, so on and so forth, right? And this illusion of decentralization kind of gets, we call it shattered, because decentralization and chaos, the difference is that chaos is without any infrastructure at all. And decentralization is like kind of the evolution of all the infrastructure that allows decentralization to happen on a digital level, right? But as soon as you move past or be lower into the nuts and bolts where it's not as digital, right? You need rule of law. You need people to protect the data centers. You need, the capital to, have ownership to, create infrastructure, right? Even decentralized infrastructure is not really decentralized in the core of it in terms of how it's owned. How we interact, yes, right? And so, Apple will do whatever Apple wants to do, and there's nothing we can do about it except for go to Android, and Android will do whatever they want to do at Play Store until we have, other means or whatever. But I think in the most part, most consumers are not against whatever Apple or, Android is doing because, for the most part, it is in the best interest of their user base. If it wasn't, then, Apple, wouldn't probably do any of those things, or at least they can get away with it. There's maybe a better cap.
I'm not a dev, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the difference, but why would it affect those apps, but not apps like Coinbase, MetaMask, Phantom? Aren't they still technically peer-to-peer?
No, because they're not using they're not used for payments, right? So you can transfer it out, right, to another account, right? But you're not using it for specifically sending it to someone who doesn't have another Coinbase account or another crypto wallet that's going out of the system, right? This is like basically just, Venmo and stuff like that is used as, for payment, rather for transfer. So I think there's definitely a distinction there, right? Does that make sense? Because like in Coinbase and stuff like that, you're holding your crypto there for trading as a brokerage, right? You're not really using it as a payment account. You could.
Well, I was gonna say there are apps that is your payment processor for crypto. I actually just saw somebody post a tweet video yesterday. They set up their store to purchase items through Coinbase. Now that's not peer-to-peer though. That is obviously consumer to business. So a little different. But if we started doing that, I mean, think about it. If I'm trading, if I take my Coinbase and I send it to you, that's peer-to-peer, isn't it? Same for MetaMask. If I send a transaction directly to you, that's peer-to-peer, isn't it?
No, in some ways, yes and no, because like if I'm on Coinbase and I have KYC there, then I'm from like the source of funds is noted and trusted, right? And then it's
so
going
that makes sense at Coinbase.
Right? Well, so for peer-to-peer, right, both parties may not be KYC. Like if I send on Venmo or whatever, Zelle or whatever like that, obviously, it's kind of peer-to-peer, but both sides are, to some degree KYC'd, right? So I'm not sure in this case, but like, if it's just peer-to-peer transfer without any KYC or whatever like this, right, then there's a difference there, right? Like where the source of funds are coming from, like where's this wallet, being, where I'm holding my Ethereum to, and then who am I sending it to as well, right? So
now I'm double checking real quick because the other day I went to buy some crypto, and usually on MetaMask I can do so using PayPal. But the other day it was not an option anymore. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but I wish it would revert. So I opened up my wallet and it's like $10,000 balance. And I'm like, yes, what happened? Something went up. And then it goes 129. I'm like, oh, damn. Had me excited. I was like, man, Bull's back for sure. Let's see. So if I go buy right now, because I'm going to use ETH. I know ETH was purchasable with PayPal previously through the MetaMask wallet. It's thinking. Oh no, PayPal's back. Okay, so it must be certain cryptocurrencies you cannot buy with PayPal now.
Mm.
Okay. Well, that's good. So that's good to know. Okay, so maybe we'll get lucky and the ones that I'm used to using will be untouched. I don't know. I don't use Venmo or well, I use PayPal, but not for crypto stuff anyway. So
Yeah.
that's whatever. So to me, I don't think this is necessarily a big deal. If what you're saying is true and you don't think it applies to MetaMask, Coinbase, all that stuff, I think we're good. I don't think this is really that big a deal. I do kind of hope the lawsuit still goes through though, just because I like to see Apple taking L's when it comes to consumer practices. But I think even if it doesn't go through, we're not going to see anything crazy as a result.
Yeah, I know. I like Apple. I like Google. I'm from Generation X. I trust in certain of these institutions that were countercultural at the time, right? In response to true boomer institutions. So I don't know.
I like Apple because when the FBI came knocking and said, "Hey, give us a backdoor to your devices," Apple was like, "Nah, screw off." Google's like, "Hey, here you go." Which I mean, I got nothing to hide, but I'm a security guy. Anybody that shows me that they're more willing to focus on security than bending over, I'm all for. So I'm pro Google or pro Apple. Google, I use them for Gmail.
I think the biggest issue is that that choice is no longer our choice, right? Especially where all our data is being held, right? But
100%.
for 98% of the population, it's sufficient, right?
As long as it
So
just works, people are happy. That's all they
yeah,
want. But
absolutely.
I'm not in that 99%. I look at security, encryption, data storage. I look at everything and because I used to be heavy on Android. For many years, I loved Android. And even now, there are times that I go, dang, I really wish I had an Android so I could go play this Web3 game since they didn't launch on iOS. But dude, it is so hard once you get invested in an ecosystem, it is so hard to leave. Apple Music, all my movies I've purchased, uh, the like all the apps that I bought from the App Store, all the in-game purchases that don't transfer between iOS and Android. Like at this point, if I leave, I'm out a ton of money. So
Mm.
it kind of sucks. And that's something else I wish we could address. Maybe there's a way to transfer purchases. That's more on the games, though, I have found, because there are a lot of games that set up systems that tie it to like your Gmail, your Twitter, or whatever. And then you just sign in on the other device, everything transfers. So it seems like it's a developer problem more so than an Apple ecosystem or even Google ecosystem problem.
Well, developing on Apple and developing on Android are two very separate things. Like certain platforms, like obviously Unity makes that easier, right? But like, when you're, developing a native app, I mean, you're really making a conscious decision to pick which one first, right? Apple in some ways is easier to develop for because there's more standardization in
True.
Android. There are so many different specs and screen sizes and optimizing for it and versions that it's a pain in the ass. But in terms of the barriers to entry for Android and the addressable market outside the US or Europe, Western Europe, I mean it's Android all the way, right? For myself, I maintain an ecosystem in both, right? So like we have in my family, Apple, what's BlueStacks?
Oh, that's the Android emulator. That's pretty much the only way I get to some Web3 games. That's my Android presence.
When I was doing mobile game development, I mean, we literally had at our office like I don't know, like 10 different cell phones so we could do testing and stuff like that, right? 10 different Android phones and Apple, whatever, so on and so forth, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think if you have the means to maintain in both ecosystems, then you don't really feel that. You just literally switch. I routinely carry around like 2 or 3 cell phones, when I'm traveling and so on and so forth, because each cell phone has a different kind of use. Nothing on the download, just out of convenience.
Yep, I agree with you. And the point that you made about the hardware also rings very true. It's like the difference between trying to develop for PlayStation or PC. All PlayStations have the same hardware.
Yeah.
PCs, people are still running PCs from 20 years ago. Good luck finding a way to run your game on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Unless it's browser based.
I'm open to all things. Like I have this vape and I have this vape and I have like this different flavored vape. I'm a very open, accepting person of all things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't hate Google. I just wish more Web3 games weren't having so many difficulties in the Apple ecosystem, because the hardware, I guarantee you it'd be so much easier hardware-wise to build for, because it's all standard. I mean, every time iPhone releases, like for example, I think it's the 15s just came out. You all know they have the same processors. They might have different screens, they might have different storage capacities, but at the end of the day, the processor's the same across the board. You know what the floor is for the amount of RAM that the phones have, because the absolute bare minimum, I think, has like 4 gigs, which is pretty standard these days anyway. So you know what you're working with. But Android, I've got an Android that I still use mostly for Spotify. But it's an LG Aristo. I think it's got maybe 2 gigs of RAM and like some 700 series Snapdragon. Like, that thing is old. So, you know, imagine a developer. I go to play their game and I'm like, hey, dude, my ancient phone can't play this game. They're like, well, you kind of SOL, right?
Yeah, definitely should have learned. You know what's interesting is that I'm happy that we even have a choice between the two. Microsoft was trying to obviously get into mobile operating systems back in the day. And,
they were ahead of their time. I will argue that.
Yes. You know, the biggest thing with what people, I think, right now don't realize is how much Microsoft was such an evil empire, until Linux came along and it kind of like opened that up. And, that open source movement was really in response to the monopoly that Microsoft had. And if Microsoft had its way, there would only be Microsoft OS on all of these phones, and it would be even more tyrannical, under that regime. People look at Bill Gates as like this really nice guy, but if you were raised in the 80s and 90s, he's like the original evil nerd, right? No one liked him like during that whole like 80s, 90s period at all.
You said evil nerd, and the first thing that came to mind was that nerdy dude from Despicable Me, the one with the coconut bowl haircut.
He's nice. He's nice compared to like what Bill Gates.
Victor, I think that was his name, Victor.
That's right. I mean, if you look at, there was an article recently that, Mark Zuckerberg, even though it was recommended that, they take off teenage filters, he's like, well, show me the data, right? But in order to show the data on like that, I mean, it's this pretty high bar to do it, but there's a level of common sense where, the current kind of trend and recommendations and, the studies on, teenage mental health on, general of these social apps has proven that, it's horrible on their mental health. And yet he wanted, data specifically for these filters. Otherwise, he felt like there's no point to take it off because other, sites will have it. But Instagram holds a certain position, right? I mean, my level of respect for Mark Zuckerberg is like negative, like 1,000, right? But he is a person who has no social skills and yet ironically manages two of the biggest social networks, Instagram and Facebook, right?
But didn't they buy out Instagram? I don't think they built that one.
That's right. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg does not have enough social skills to do so. And, if you read into, like, did he actually, make Facebook in the first place? No. That was not his concept either, right? The Winklevosses and their other buddy had actually, seeded that idea, right?
Windows wasn't even Bill Gates' idea. He bought it off of somebody else for like $50.
No, that was DOS. That was DOS.
Yeah, DOS.
Windows is what they kind of ripped off of what Apple had been doing as a graphical user interface, which they had ripped off from Xerox, Apple. Well,
is there even original ideas anymore? Or is it all money? Who can buy out the original ideas first?
Not really money, but who can execute, right?
That is fair. That's a good point.
Yeah, but then those who execute, are far away from those who had maybe the ethos and the idea of what it was meant to be. For instance, DeFi. I think a lot of like OG. When we talk about OG people, we talk about OG like Bitcoin people who have been around since like early, like 2010, 2012, right? And those people pretty much have a distaste as Bitcoin maxis for a lot of the DeFi stuff, right? But if you look at the real cypherpunks, right, who have been around from the 70s and 80s, they fucking hate everything to do with crypto in terms of how it's debased it's become into like this financialized type of thing where everyone talks about Lambo and Moon when the whole thing was about, freedom of choice, right? And they're just completely disgusted in it because, people think that, it's funny because like the younger generation or the present generation who didn't have money or who were so young in terms of being just in university, just basically sold their soul for 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever like that, thinking like this is a huge amount of money, right? And then the entire speculative space now is tens of hundreds of millions of dollars. That they're individuals who have had that ability for not just generational wealth, but this ungodly amount of wealth in such a short period of time, using these tools, which in a real way have no net like societal benefit, rather than kind of this redistribution of allocation and this kind of Ponzi-esque musical chairs, right? So, he or they who can execute. I mean, like, you think about it. Do you think that the cypherpunk, pioneering fathers who wanted choice look at like BlackRock going for their ETF as a good thing? One of the most powerful like financial entities in the world, who have like X amount of backdoor dealings and very opaque practices, actually, right? Who are part of this old boy system, very much so. Basically using crypto, but in a centralized way entirely for an investment, position. Yeah. Execution, it's so easy to kind of lose our souls in the middle of this, right?
So Mr. House, we got a comment, says,
Yeah.
have you guys heard of this great game called My Angry Yakuza Girlfriend? Playtest live in their Discord right now. Heard the founder is pretty cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard he's pretty cool, but he comes off as an obnoxious old guy, but whatever. Some people might find that's cool too. Wearing sunglasses on a podcast or whatever. Smoking his vapes.
Oh man. Well, moving on, we got how familiar are you with Blur?
Somewhat. Obviously, I'm in the NFT gaming space. I'm not a PFP or a DGen hunter, but yes, I'm familiar enough.
So I'm sure you've heard they're launching their L2.
Yes.
Last.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you feeling about this? So I'm doing some reading because I don't know anything about Blur. I know I've seen it all over the timeline. I didn't have any interest from everything that I saw, and now this new L2 comes into play, and from my understanding, they're supposed to be using a multi-sig for the bridge. However, out of the 5 wallets that are used in the contract, it looks like 4 of them are funded from a single wallet, and 1 is a new wallet that has no Ether transactions. So there's kind of some concerns and red flags there. And not to mention that the co-founder, Pac-Man, is not doxxed from my understanding. They labeled him as pseudonymous.
For the layman.
Hang on real quick. So to note, I also want to mention that they've already raised $27 million for this L2 that does not even exist yet. It's only been announced. And right now, the bridge is one way. If you bridge into Blast, you cannot bridge back until it goes live.
Well, that would happen same with when base launched and stuff like that. I mean, like back in the 2017 when we moved in past the ICO era, into 2018 and stuff like that, and you had like Andre Conge, with FTM and before then what he was doing, he whatever he would touch, and it was like an like audited contract, unverified, and just a test contract. People would just send money to it, just thinking that like, hey, whatever Andre touches, it's going to be worth a fuck ton, right? So this is like all degen money. I mean, here's the thing, right? We look at it and we're like 27 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money from normies, right? But for degens, this is what's happening in, DeFi all the time. They're aping into like whatever meme coin that, basically if you go to these alpha groups that, I don't attend, but, I know of very much, they'll shoot in like 2-3K into like these coins that are completely meaningless, hoping to like, hit off, a Pepe or a meme coin or, whatever, a Doge early, and just kind of do it. But Pac-Man Blur, one thing that everyone does know is that he is the ultimate optimizing degen. I mean, he knows the trends. And so when Blur first came out, it was hailed as, what NFT marketplaces and what, OpenSea should have been, but isn't. They had their own token, they had like mass transactions, and, they basically took away this view of, here are your PFPs and a gallery and stuff like that, and just pretty much just listed them out as if it was like, detail on like a file explorer or whatever like that, rather than a gallery. And then the net effect of that was that PFPs that were holding their floor during the bear market just got annihilated, right? As they're farming for airdrops, and these airdrops, the first airdrop went really, really well. And then people were just farming for the sake of farming to get this airdrop, and then using the NFTs as just basically their ammunition for liquidity.
Yeah.
Right. And then suddenly Blur became like the evil force, like the soul sucking Darth Vader of, well, not Darth Vader, but the Sith Lord of, exchanges. Right. And so then, in some ways, everything became very polarized in terms of how people looked at it. But no one can dispute the fact that, Pac-Man Blur, he knows his shit. He knows the right product market fit for degens to degen on to the max degree. And so I think that if he's seeing there's an opportunity in L2s, it's definitely there. And I think the opportunity that he sees and the way he executes it will be the max amount of degen. But when you have the max amount of degen, you also have the max amount of exploitation, right? In terms of like kind of like hitting at that weak spot in the system where you're extracting, like you're just basically like, instead of you're a little mosquito and you're sucking out a little blood here, whatever like that, whatever he does, he gets this whole crowd of degens to come in, and it's like basically taking a fire hose and just sticking it into your neck and just pumping out your lifeblood right out of your main veins and stuff like that. So I think he definitely, and everyone who comes in early that works with Pac-Man Blur, he's his best bet, like than anyone, or as anyone who could be a bet, simply to extract from this market and have that really super degen edge. But the reality is that what a lot of people completely disregard and don't understand is that finance is a market upon an established economy and established industries, right? And we think that in crypto or in DeFi or whatever like that it's entirely its own market, that's what the economy is, right? And when you separate that from revenues or utility or long-term value or productivity, right? You could really just suck it dry, And so like I would say that Pac-Man Blur is almost like he's almost like in some way like this the last of the what do you call it, parasites or whatever like that, where whatever the alpha or whatever the trend is with L2, Pac-Man will probably destroy it to any particular value and extract it to the hands of himself and whoever goes on board with it. So it's the beginning of the end of L2s, I think.
Yeah, it's nothing. Again, Pac-Man may have business prowess. Everything that you said, I don't disagree with. And Mr. House also said that he believes that Pac-Man is Tyshun Roker, who sold Namecheap. So if that is the case and is confirmable, then obviously he does have business prowess and he knows how to make money. No issues there. But looking at the graphic that's circulating right now, this comes off very clearly as a Ponzi scheme. And I say this because if I invite you right now, Sinjin, I get 16% bonus points. Everybody I invite, I get 16% bonus points. Then guess what happens? Whoever you invite, I get 8% off of that person too.
Yeah.
Is this not a textbook pyramid scheme?
It goes without saying. I mean, that's a completely rhetorical question. So I'll give you an interesting point that in 2018, China actually banned ICOs because they were going on like 3 years beforehand, actually, in China, before all the ICO craziness happened in the West. And all of them were derivatives of some type of actual, like, legacy type of Ponzi's, but they were supercharged by using tokens, right? And in China, you know, everyone knows it's a Ponzi, right? But they're hoping that they're getting in first and they're getting out first, and they're able to get out at the right time. And so, in some ways, a lot of times when there's fraudulent behavior or scams, quote unquote, that are happening, or Ponzi's, in the East, they really know what they're getting into, and they know someone else is going to get fucked here. They're hoping they're not going to get fucked. In the West, it's like, it's a Ponzi, and you know it's a Ponzi, and then, but if you don't get out or you got in late, you're like, oh, it was a Ponzi, I didn't realize, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, look, there's a fire, and I'm gonna put my hand in the fire. Oh, I got burned, right? But like, for some reason, some other people didn't seem to get burned in the beginning as well.
So real quick, we got a couple more comments. So Rod said, in summary, this is what the market wants, more Ponzi's. And Mr. House said, the newest and most pseudo-complex Ponzi always wins. But Mr. House also did say it is confirmable on Taishun's personal website. He did time at MIT, dropped out of Thiel Fellowship. So it sounds like
this guy's product market fit is unreal, right?
Like I said, he seems like a good business guy, but I mean,
I wouldn't say he's a good business guy. I mean, he's much more than that. I mean, this man is able to really pinpoint that product market fit for degens like at an unbelievable level. Yeah, that is a real talent. Absolutely.
I was a degen once upon a time, and I probably would have aped into it following the other degens, but I don't know. Maybe it's me maturing. Maybe I've been in the space long enough to start figuring out the bullshit, but I don't degen anymore. I'm here to play games, and I'm going to buy what I want, and I ignore the rest of the noise. Everybody can hype up Blast and Blur and all these other games and platforms they want. If there's no interest from me, I'm not throwing money at it. And everything about Blast, just there's nothing that appeals to me.
The mentality to be a long-term builder, right? And the mentality to be a short-term extractor, right? Or hustler or degen, they're diametrically like opposite. And to be able to hold both in your mentality, your perspective at one time is quite the feat, right? It's the difference between a startup founder and an executive. And a lot of startup founders, when they get to the executive level, they're shitty CEOs, right? But they're fantastic entrepreneurs. Whereas an executive in an entrepreneurial startup situation, even with a massive amount of capital, just sucks. It's like the worst possible like fit. So I would say, obviously, Gene Karen, as you decide to build things out, that's a great thing, and that's where a lot of the sustainable, everlasting values. And we see this with Web3 gaming. Obviously there are those who are going to jump on every single meta that's possible that comes up so they can get eyeballs on their project. Whereas for myself as a game developer, all the things that come up in the meta have already been addressed 2 years ago when I designed the game, right? Because I had to decide. And like even the airdrop that we're doing for our pre-beta period, that was all designed 2 years ago. This is not like something that's new. Yeah, of course, right? And I say of course not because I'm trying to be arrogant here. Is that you have to kind of understand that beforehand, right? And so for us, the difference is that we're doing this pre-beta airdrop with an actual fucking finished game, right? Whereas everybody else is doing with some kind of playable bullshit or whatever like this, hoping to get the game good enough to whatever, right? But on the other hand, those people who are engaging in whatever current meta there is in the Web3 gaming space is the one that gets the eyeballs, right? One developer who I love so much, Graslow, he was here last week, but we discussed, but he isn't engaging in that kind of speculative whatever, but like, what is he leaving on the table, right? As how much have I left on the table to do a free, to not have whatever a pre-token supply that's minted out with whatever vested schedules, whatever VCs to dump on like my community or so on and so forth, right? Yeah. I've done everything right, but yet am I really maximizing my time in Web3 and engaging in this degen behavior, which most degens would be happy to. But then in the end, I mean, like, where do I see the real value? And the real value is that this, idea of Web3 creating, games that are like forever games or digital assets that really are meaningful, right? Then, that's something that as a lifelong gamer and, a game developer, that's what I would like to see. And that's what I see it. But, I am very much seen as naive and, not optimizing our positioning here in Web3. So, when you go on a lot of spaces and stuff like that, you'll hear so many of the answers just shilling their shit. And thank you, Mr. House, for the shout out and stuff like that. But, Meiji's not on a lot of lists and stuff like that. But I was talking to like a very, very prominent, Web3 gaming, like almost investor / builder. I mean, super highly regarded. We had a kind of private conversation. And he said that, what Meiji has done is like 99% ahead of every single project he's seen. And he's basically seen them all. He's worked with all the major projects. And he says, but you are not taking advantage of the value. Why are you here in Web3, right? Because this is where the market is at. Because I don't give a fuck about where the market is at, to be honest. I'm not doing this because I want like an extra, whatever, $10 million or like whatever the fuck everyone else is doing it for, right? I'm doing it for not legacy, but I'm doing it to kind of push things forward. And I had a talk with someone else and I said, everyone's talking about converting Web 2 users to Web 3, right? But the reality is that things like Paul Bettner's doing, or, Sasha from Dimensionals, or Koji from Parallel, and ourselves, and I put ourselves in that bracket as well, in Shrapnel, is that we're not trying to convert Web 2 players. We're trying to evolve the space that it becomes something, and then everyone will naturally move forward into that space, right? But you have to give a compelling product that makes them feel like they're moving forward, right? And
exactly.
You have shitty cars at the beginning, right? And what if they just stayed shitty and it was just about sales technique, right? Then you get early adopters, but like fuck, the horse will still be the main mode of transportation. But as cars get that much better, and you're looking towards developing something that is such a much better 10x product, right? Horses just naturally become obsolete, right? You can talk about ownership all the fucking day, right? You can look at like Fortnite and you can talk about like CSGO or whatever like that, or CS2, whatever like that. But those games have the individual ownership that matters because the games are so fucking good, right? How many games have all this in-game monetization and items, and they're shit games in Web 2 and they make fucking dick all, and ownership means nothing there. Just like ownership means dick all in Web 3 if your game sucks dick, right? There's a lot of dicks going around here, right? And none of it's good,
No, you have a great point. Like, especially when we look at costs, right? Obviously, the costs of games are going up. We're starting to see games move towards the $70 price point on a more frequent basis. I'm just thinking, like, for me, obviously, I'm a big World of Warcraft person. I play and compare it to a lot of games. Now, when I spend $40 to buy a World of Warcraft expansion, that's my next year's worth of content. Sometimes two. In fact, this expansion, we're getting 2 years of content for $40. And I come over to Web3 and they're like, here, you can buy this skin. Cool. How much is it? Oh, $200 for a skin. And people are like, well, Web3 is just trying to get more money out of us. I can see it. I can see why they have those complaints. Until the prices are more reasonable and actually applicable to the game, like, why would I? Well, everybody's like, well, just go play Web 2 games. Well, I am.
Let me give you the counterpoint then. So the real counterpoint is this, right? The crypto market has tried to tokenize real world assets, right? They've tried to create like value supply chains on the blockchain, and it's all kind of failed. The reason why is because I think my thesis is that in order for there to be tokenization, it needs to be a true digital asset first, right? Tokenizing like real world assets has a place, but not so much as strong as if there was a really valued digital asset, then that should be tokenized. And in the same way, if we look at what ownership really is is really entailing in terms of, your skin or whatever like that on Fortnite or on, CS or whatever like that, there's actually an added utility that it's not cosmetic, but yet it's income bearing as an asset. So
Well,
in
it
some
depends
ways,
on the game.
it
It does
depends on the
depend on the
game, right?
game.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that it should actually be that all games in Web3, the digital assets itself have such a utility towards the gameplay or the game
Mm-hmm.
experience, or through like some level of financialized earning, right? That they become like almost like building out, your like buying apartments, right? And renting them out,
It
right?
might not be the best example, but like big time, right? Even though the skins are cosmetic, I can use those skins to get into the prestige portals to earn big time token.
Exactly, right?
So even
So
though it's
like,
still a cosmetic and it doesn't
yeah,
actually have an effect on my gameplay, it does open up that utility of earning, like you mentioned. And that's
yeah,
why I'm okay buying those types of skins. When there's utility involved, I don't mind spending more. Like
yeah,
when Parallel launched, everybody was complaining, oh, well, why would I spend $100 on a deck of cards when I can go buy the physical one? Because you can't earn with the physical ones.
that's right.
You like you're not understanding these systems. The NFT itself isn't always the value. It's the utility that NFT brings that is the value.
Right. So right now we talk about digital items in games as if they're like Web2 digital items, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like on the collector basis and so on and so forth, which is fine, and that's a player persona, whatever like this, right? But if we were to start to talk about assets, right? I mean, digital collectibles, not as collectibles, but rather as assets,
Mm-hmm.
then that's an entirely different conversation, right? And so then, for instance, I could buy like a cheap ass, condo or cottage in like whatever Catskills. Okay, no offense to people who have Catskill places in New York, it's fine, right? But in terms of prestige and social clout and stuff like that, I'm gonna buy in, Southampton or East Hampton, right? Because that is what gives me as an asset far more utility of what I'm looking for someone who lives in Manhattan, right? Where in the summers, like all the friends and family will be over in that area, right? So if we start looking at digital items as actually digital assets, right? That's a conversation we need to have, because that justifies me rather than spending, whatever 300,000 in the Catskill and me spending 4 million in Southampton, right? The regular person may say like, why the fuck would you do that? Catskills is, it's great. There's going to be less traffic there, less snotty people and stuff like that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
whereas like in Southampton, where a lot of bankers live, because it's like the closest, basically to get back to Manhattan, right? Other than like
Yeah.
West Hampton or whatever like that. That's where all the like social networking happens during the summertime, right? So like for a lot of these finance guys, being they're still working over the summertime, but the utility of that to make more money for their core job, because they're able to socialize over the summer, right, with their families and stuff like that, and make further connections industry wise, it's worth it, right? So, but it has to have that utility, right? It has to have that depth of utility as an asset, right? And so, even myself, if I don't give a fuck about like what's going on in finance in New York and stuff like that, Catskills is actually a much better choice, right? Or New Jersey or wherever like this, right? But if I care about my social clout, my reputation, and my networking, then that justifies me getting a $4 million place in Southampton, because I'm going to make a
True.
deal that's going to, give me $2 million a year from that, right? Where in Catskills that may not happen, right?
That's
And so
true.
it's it's just like where you choose to buy your assets is what you're living with your asset and you're going to live in your asset, or you're going to buy 10 different apartments which you're never going to live in, but yet have a different return value for, right? But we're not
Exactly.
having that conversation because everyone's fucking under like 30 years old and they're already making like whatever millions of dollars so easily, and they don't give a fuck about this conversation at all.
Someone needs to teach me, because I'm definitely over 30 and I'm not making millions of dollars yet. So I'm doing something wrong here.
Jim Karen, if you came under my wing, you would be a degen millionaire in less than a year, six
I think
months.
maybe that's why I stopped being a degen, was because I lost more money than I was earning.
Hmm. But the trick is to keep degenning. Actually, there's a friend of mine who, I call him a friend, but we haven't known each other very long. He won. He earned and lost millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, 3 times since like 2000, like whatever, 15 or so.
Wow.
But the last time he degened in, he was up 90 million. From
Somebody
zero.
help me here. I'm trying to quit my 9 to 5.
From zero, right? But
God.
why I love him is that he understands the building side and stuff like that, and he's quite the intelligent guy. But he understands and he has fully embraced the degen culture without losing his soul. Well, maybe not losing his soul. I mean, he's Korean, so we connect on a certain level there, right? So it's definitely there's something to be said about what is going on in the market, and so I'm not poo-pooing it in the sense that there is value here. There is something to be said about like the short-term speculative aspect of things, right? But if we're going to get into like what's sustainable for the long term, 10 years from now, right? I don't think it's going to be like what is here at the moment, right? But then again, we may never get there if everything is just always speculative as well. Basically we're in penny stock hell for the rest of eternity, and we've squandered this technology that could have like changed all of humanity and made us worthy in the eyes of AI, right?
Yeah.
They'll be like, look at this, like they had like this cryptography technology, decentralization, and humanity just used it to fucking degen, right? They're not worthy of surviving. Let's wipe them out, right? Except for this guy Sinjin, right? And Jim Karen.
Oh, good recovery. So moving forward, unfortunately, I do have a hard stop in a little bit. I want to touch on these last 2 topics before we wrap things up. We got the Champions Tactics trailer from Ubisoft, as well as their partnership with Animoca. I guess they're being integrated into the Mochaverse from what I've read. So I think that's kind of dope for Animoca brands, obviously being able to work with Ubisoft, one of the big names from Web 2. However, I'm still not sold on Championverse or Champions Tactics, whatever they want to call it. Everything that they've released so far, I've seen a screenshot of a card. I've seen like little minis that look like they're going to be played on a board. I think there will be an audience for it, but to me, they labeled it as a PvP tactical RPG.
PvP tactical RPG game?
Yeah, most
That's
people
cool.
I know that play RPGs aren't necessarily a fan of PvP, though.
I think there's a way to structure it. I mean, to be.
We don't have gameplay, so I can't really judge. I'm basing it off of what's available.
Actually, one of the 3 games I had spec'd out before we decided to actually build out Meiji was a tactical PvP RPG game. Because it fits in with the economic modeling for, I mean, like PvP is the ultimate kind of like the best model to create the most robust economic system, because it has the risk and reward, and that risk and reward is done at the player to player level, right? Much like poker, if you look at poker, the risk to the house is actually very minimal as long as there's enough players playing. Whereas in the casino, actually one whale coming out and having a good run could wipe out the casino, or a sports book, right? Because it's the house versus the player, right? So
I'm going to be completely honest. At this point, I'm biased against anything using cards. I'm so sick of TCG RPGs. There's only one that I've truly played and loved so far, and it's Dimensionals. The rest of them, I don't know. It just feels so samey.
Yeah, all those FPS games are very samey and stuff like this. Don't be a hater, Jim Karen. Just open your mind to like whatever, you're perhaps not the target market and stuff like that, right?
Oh, I know I'm not. And I've made it very clear to people, I am not a TCG person. I love Magic the Gathering. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon. I have thousands
played
of cards.
TCG, first one in like 20 years recently. I was the first gen Magic the Gathering player, and a dev reached out to me on Twitter, and I played his game called Havoc, and it was wonderful.
I've been seeing that one. I've been seeing that one in the feed.
He kicked my ass, and he says, "Oh, well, I'm not going to kick your ass here because I could." I go, "No, kick my ass. I want to see whether or not how it goes as a game developer. And it was a great experience. And he had a very unique, what do you call it? A couple of unique mechanics, but one of them was that there was a move aspect to the cards in terms of movement to get into range, and also a range aspect in terms of who you could attack and stuff like that. So I had a great time playing it, right? And I think all games, whether it's like playing sticks with sticks or dice or 52 cards or whatever like that, or playing TCGs. I mean, that's I'm up for any game per se.
It's Ubisoft. I mean, other than probably the anti-NFT crowd, I think they're going to do fine. It's just, like you said, it's not for me. I'm not the target audience. But again, it's really hard for me to judge because I'm basing it off of the early teasers. Their trailer has no actual gameplay involved. So right now I'm speculating that this is going to be another TCG.
Well, I'm happy for Animoca. They, as much as I can tag on Animoca, they have done their best to kind of uplift and maintain the space during this bear market. I think that's out of self-preservation as well. But, Yad and Robbie, they work hard. They're good guys from all accounts. And, I wish them the best, and so, this partnership, even though it's with like Strategic Division, I think as well, which is like basically the catch-all for all fringe projects in Ubisoft and stuff like that. Good for them. Good for Animoca. Good luck to them. I wish them the best.
Yep, I agree with you 110%. I think this is great for Animoca. So I'm glad to see them doubling down and improving that they are here for gaming, especially by getting involved with such a giant for sure. I'm not sure I'm going to be playing Champions Tactics just yet. We'll have to wait and see. Especially since I'm not big on PvP. Like I play a lot of World of Warcraft. I touch PvP maybe once every 6 months at most. So, when it's PvP, I'm in a shooter. I got to be in a shooter or a MOBA. I'll accept a MOBA too. But
for a lot of PC gamers, like some people are like first-person shooter guy. I mean, like single-player campaign guys, and other people like don't really get in the game until PvP. Right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah. I love it when I remember this one time, long time ago, like 1999. We had this marketing guy, and we're working for World Cyber Games. And this marketing dude, and he was Canadian, and he was like, I'm fucking such a great gamer, and I'm so fucking good at StarCraft and stuff like that. And you Koreans always say this shit, like you're the best and stuff like that. And this is early days, right? 1999 and stuff. And I'm like, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, buddy, right? I could beat you with like one hand tied behind my back and just using a mouse, not using hotkeys, right? It's like, okay, fine. Let's fucking play. So we played in the office, and I fucking annihilated him. And so like, there's like competitive gamers and there's like nerd single player gamers, right? And nerd single player gamers in their head, they're really using video games to like kind of enact their nerd fantasies that they're like the hero of their life and stuff like that. But then you go up against a competitive like P2P player, man, that illusion is just shattered. And I'm not a great StarCraft player. I mean, I'm just an average Korean StarCraft player. But compared to this guy, I was fucking godlike. Oh shit! I still remember this thing. And he basically quit StarCraft after that. I fucking beat him like 3 times in a row and just humiliated him. With like I just used like one single unit. I'm like, I'm just gonna use one unit and just fucking beat the fuck out of you. And he's like, yeah, fuck, whatever. Okay, give me 10 minutes to fucking build up my base. Then I'm like, okay, fine. That's a fucking newbie thing. It's like I can always tell someone's a fucking noob when they're like, we're playing Dota or whatever it is. Like I could beat you 1v1, like single lane or whatever. I'm like, only a fucking noob would say that, This is a fucking team game, Like, what the
No
fuck?
joke.
Yeah, okay, fine. You pick your character first, then I'll pick mine second.
So our final topic, Pancake Swap apparently launched their new gaming hub. I don't have any further information really to provide for that because when I clicked on the link, I was immediately met by this site has been reported as unsafe, hosted by PancakeSwap.games. Microsoft recommends you do not continue to this site. It's been reported as containing phishing threats. So this is a great launch.
On Binance, right? BNB chain?
I'm not sure. I don't use PancakeSwap.
Yeah, I think it's BNB chain. Well, like most Web3 games on BNB have been considered the ultimate shill / Ponzi / pump and dumps. Anyways, I wish CZ the best of luck. he's made his money, a lot of it out of Asia, just allowing all manners of stuff to happen. And it's kind of embarrassing because they look at these stats like game seven, like this game seven stat about like how many developers are out in Asia, but all the ones who are building on B&B, I don't really consider them developers because they're just basically the scum of the earth, quite a majority of them. What do I think about it? It's Binance Chain doing Binance Chain, right? It's like it's just another degen, platform for these guys who actually know it's a Ponzi and who are getting into it, right? That being said, for everything that I've said about all the degens and everything else like that, am I at a certain level envious of all like the quote unquote easy Lambo money that these guys are able to receive for fucking doing dick all? Yeah, of course I am at a certain level. But at another level too, is just like, there's a level of integrity and character that I think, wins the day in the end, right? And it's not a pretty process. It's not a fulfilling process at the time, but at the end of the day, I mean, looking back on it like 5 to 10 years later, which I know is a lifetime for, everyone nowadays, but for myself, it's worth it. So I'm sure Pancake will do very well with their existing user base.
That's the guesstimate that they're going with. They believe that they have the potential to onboard 1.5 million gamers. Like I said, though, the platform's already off to a very rough start. It's already flagged for security practices. As of right now, based on the Decrypt article that I am reading, because obviously I want to know more about this marketplace, apparently it currently features 2 games that are themed around the exchange and its branding. So great games going for you guys. I don't think I would play a Pancake Swap themed game, but
Pancake Swap is the Blur of decentralized exchanges.
Oh my god! So it's just another Ponzi? What?
No, I mean they're very good at doing whatever they're doing. I mean, when Uniswap was doing very well, and they were approaching volumes that were noticeable compared to CX's. And then, they basically launched that on Binance. And then CZ was like, look at our DEX on BNB, chain. And, we're doing great too now, which, really wasn't, which was innovative in a way. Pancake Swap was innovative in a way by taking all like the most degen elements of, a DEX and sticking it on and launching that way, which is absolutely true. I'm not saying bullshit.
Hang on, the article gets better. So Pancake Swap said that the marketplace will give game developers access to their sizable user base, claiming that there are 1.5 million potential monthly players ready to embrace your creations. But in the same breath, said that their game is seeing 25,000 DAU at peak. That's not even close to 1 million. That's not even close to 100K.
Yeah, but comparably, 25 DAU and 25K DAU in Web3 is like fucking pixel level. Yeah,
it's still good.
It's fucking amazing. And if they're all whales, then yeah, fantastico.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I just think it's funny how they're promoting this. Like, oh, reach our 1.5 million users that are ready to game, and it's like,
stop being so critical about this degen marketing stuff, man. This is the way they roll. A degen will like say whatever conflicting, statements as long as it makes their position that has no logic, but it has a great narrative. How many pitches I've seen where like, even in Web 2, they have, raised, tens of millions of dollars, and the pitch deck is this beautiful narrative. And then you read it the first time and like, fuck, I'm going to sell my house, my car, put my kids from adoption, and I'm going to invest my entire life savings. But you read it a second and third and fourth time, the same deck, right? And you realize there's fucking nothing here, right? So, but the thing is, degens, they understand that and they don't go past that because they figure if I buy into this narrative as a degen, that other degens are buying into this narrative, and that's enough, right? Because that's as far as it can go, because it's never meant to be kind of a long-term thing, right? You extract at the moment, and it's the way the game's played. Unfortunately, I'm not a very good player at the degen level.
I was about to say, unfortunately, I don't know. I cannot maybe it's a morals thing. Maybe it's just because I was raised different. I can't partake in these systems. Like anytime it's like Friends Tech, for example, I could have jumped on board, promoted it, earned some money off the backs of others, and then exited once I've gotten as much as I could. I can't bring myself to do that. And if others do that, I mean, get your bag, I guess. It's just not for me. I can't play that game. That's
Well,
how it
it's
is.
like the analogy I would give is when you're young and you're sowing your wild oats, right? You could sleep with everything under the sun that's like basically walking and breathing, right? And you could do whatever you want. But I didn't do that. I have been a kind of romantic for most of my life. I've had a lot of girlfriends, but like I haven't slept around, so on and so forth. And late in my age, I can look my children in the eye and say, daddy wasn't a whore, and I don't have any long-term STDs or anything like that. I won't make any comments on the short term. That could be just bad luck, as a young man and stuff like that, and being Korean, because we don't tend to use, the rubbers and stuff. Maybe that's too much information, but, I have no regrets. And that's like something that happens like, much later in life and, or, later in the cycle, in the sense that like, if you do things in a very degen way, and then you decide at a certain point, hey, I want to be legit, right? That degen past may have created certain liabilities that will fuck you later when you want to go legit. And if you look at Luca and Pudgy Penguins, right? I think that he played the degen game very well at the beginning of his career in crypto. And then, he applied certain skills that he knew, and he saw an opportunity, and, he's taking Pudgy Penguins to something very, very legit. But that past of his degenness was brought up. And then, he ended up having to kind of apologize and justify it to say, like, my intention wasn't that to be whatever. That's where people were making money. And that's how I got my bag to like get into Pudgy. And, I've done everything, step by step. Right. And that's, I guess, a kind of expression or a kind of symptom of his youth that, he didn't realize or he was in the moment as, a native degen at that time, or someone in the space who, eventually went legit, right? Not eventually went legit, but, evolved into that kind of, very high utility project. So, there are certain risks. I mean, you look at what's, the indictment against CZ and stuff like this, and, they've settled and so on and so forth. And, I have experience in this area. When I worked at PokerStars and then I had left, in 2010 and 2011, PokerStars ends up getting indicted, and then, they end up paying, whatever, in total about like 1.4 billion to the U.S. government, right, in fines, and the founders paid like 300 million each, or so on and so forth, right. So I'm very close and understand actually that process very, very well. A 4.3 billion total fine against like 3 agencies. Holy fuck, man. I mean, this is a great outcome from actually CZ, actually. Right. But that means that, at the early days of Binance, right, like, were they, engaged in illegal activities or activities that were, outside, the U.S. laws for, certain jurisdictions and stuff like that? I would guess probably to a high degree, not to say that, I have any facts sort of like that, but to pay a $4.3 billion fine, right?
To plead guilty, step down from your company and everything else, it's kind of incriminating.
I mean, I don't want to pass judgment in terms of like whatever, because there are a lot of political plays here. And, I mean, do I respect CZ? Yes, I do. Do I think that he has been good and been a good player in the crypto space relative to everybody else? Absolutely. I'll say that, absolutely, relatively, right? But to the current laws and regimes that are in place, right? Obviously, it's relative to crypto, but in relative to, legacy and governments and jurisdictions,
Well, it's interesting to say the least. Hopefully CZ is fine from all this. I think I read somewhere there was
sure
like
the okay with his billions of dollars. Yeah.
Well, I heard there might be an 18-month sentence somewhere. I don't know if that's the case. I can't find any facts to back that up, but I don't know what pleading guilty entails. Like it publicly, as far as I'm aware, it's settled. It's done with. He's stepping down. He paid the fine. That's it.
I think there's like one more agency that has like a civil suit against him, but not a criminal, right? But generally speaking, when you pay this level of fine and you settle, it's usually without jail time, but with the caveat that you're paying this fine without any incriminating charges levied against you, that, you know, it's settled without charges, right? That's usually the fully scot-free, I'm walking away thing. What I was surprised here was that there was an actual charge made, right? And then he had pled guilty, right? And I think this is the only way he could have gone out of it. But that fine is fucking insane fucking fine, you know? I think the thing is, like, PokerStars, and I will praise the founders till my dying day, they did everything right. And they had a legal opinion from the U.S. law firm saying that, you know, what they were doing were operating right. Now, where they got tripped up is obviously where the payments were involved, right? That they were misrepresenting payments. They had gone to bank, they were, Full Tilt that like another company had hijacked like the, ACH, clearinghouse network, and, had done, whatever like things. And so, like, outside of the actual poker side, but, getting money in and out, that's where the issues ultimately lay, right? Not in so much in the poker itself, because, you see like fantasy sports betting, and now, poker is legal.
Oh, yeah.
Different various states, online, whatever like that. But, they did do what they did with integrity. And I think, but again, I think even what I just said, there is that caveat. In order for that business to work, they had to, kind of do things in the gray or even the illegal areas, right? That, in the sense that they were, co-opting things that should have not been co-opted. In CZ's case, though, interesting. For this to happen, I mean, I would say that in certain instances, they really had him dead to rights, right? And this is probably the best settlement he could have gone to move forward. Yeah.
I don't disagree. I do have a hard stop, though, so we got to wrap things up. Did you have anything to add, Sinjin? I know you got Gamified here in 30 minutes, so if you guys are watching this, make sure you guys go check out Gamified every Wednesday, hosted by Wolves Doubt. I know this isn't our usual schedule, so this is a good time for me to plug them. Anything else?
Well, I love Sam. I love you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Do enjoy the food coma because of the global warming. We may not have turkeys in a few years, so just dig in. Eat that stuffing, cranberry. I'm a big cranberry sauce guy. If you're not, you're a fucking idiot. And enjoy your family. Really enjoy your family. If you have time and, whatever like that, say, give your love to your parents, mend some fences, and enjoy Thanksgiving and whatever football that's happening at the same time.
And before I go into my little ending spiel that we do every week, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware. Go check out theblocksauce.com. Go check it out. It's right there. I got the website over our pretty faces, more so Sinjin than mine. Go check it out.
Yeah, well, that's terrible. You're much better looking than me. It's okay. I'm married with a wife and beautiful children.
Hang on. On top of that, I hear rumors that we have a giveaway.
Ooh.
Oh. So if you guys go to the Block Sauce Twitter right now, Block Sauce and Rumble Kong League have teamed up. They are doing a giveaway. Go follow Block Sauce. Go jump on the Gleam. Go start doing the quests and stuff. Get your entries in, and you too could win some Rumble Kong League socks. I think it was socks. I have to double check. I know there were some socks, but I wonder if there's more to it. That's my bad.
Okay, Team Karen, I will give away one Meiji NFT. They're at like 0.045 ETH or 0.05 ETH. So I give
we got to coordinate this. No. Rod wasn't happy with me last time because it wasn't coordinated. Yes, we need to
spontaneously do that as a founder. All right, fine. He's blocking me from giving away free shit, guys.
No. We just need to come up with the game plan so we can make sure you get proper promotion. That's what it's about. Because
I'm not that kind of shilling promoting guy, man. I'm all from the heart.
It's not about shilling. Guess what? Next week, if you want to give away a Meiji next week, let me know. We'll set up another contest.
All right, we'll give away a Meiji next week.
How about that?
All right,
I got you, Rod. I covered my bases this time.
Rod is the man. NFT. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the organization and Rod. Fantastic guy, fantastic people, and it shows picking Jim Karen as a host because this is a man with integrity. So I always appreciate it. You know, whenever the schedule allows myself to be on this show, I am always open to this opportunity and appreciate this time to have time with Jim Karen and be on the Block Sauce. So thank you guys as well.
And we love having you on because you ain't afraid to call people winkers. So, yeah. But that's going to be a wrap for us, folks. This is another great episode of the Block Sauce. I know things were a little different. It was just me and Sinjin, but I really did enjoy today. Before we say farewell, though, again, huge thank you to Sinjin taking time. This was all kind of thrown together last minute, so appreciate you being flexible and hanging with me today. Remember, Sauce never. What?
I'm a team fucking player.
Hell yeah, let's go. But remember, the sauce never stops flowing. Make sure you guys follow us on social media. Check out the website, which is flashing down below. Check it out, blocksauce.com. Let's go. That's going to be it for us today, though, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining. See you next week, where we will make sure that we keep the game of... Why did I just blank? Anyway, stay saucy and keep gaming in the exciting realm of Web3. Have a good one.
Ciao.